Hello, everyone, and welcome to our next segment of Legacy Chronicles, honoring the past, shaping the future. I'm your host, Donna Rosenblum, Director of Education here at the Holocaust Memorial and Tolerance Center. Welcome, and today we have a wonderful guest. We have Barbara Murray. Barbara is a longtime volunteer here at HMTC in the library and a second generation. So we're going to talk this morning about her family, her journey, and her words of wisdom. So thank you so much, Barbara, for being with us.
Thank you.
No problem. We're going to jump right in and start with the first question, which is, tell us a little bit about your family's background, your parents, and what happened to them during this time frame.
Okay, well, my parents were both Polish Jews, and they married very late in life. They married at the age of 30. And when the war broke out, they were in Paris, France, and they left because they were not documented to be allowed to stay. They went back to Poland, saw the problem, and fled into Russia. When they fled into Russia, they were given a choice. Do you want to become Russian? And if you said no, which they did, they were sent to Siberia to the labor camps, which they stayed for almost 3.5 years, until 43.
Okay.
In 43, they were transported and freed to Uzbekistan, the complete other part of the Soviet Union. You went from one section where it's cold to now it's nice and warm.
Right.
I don't know why they went there. I'm assuming they were not given many choices. I believe they were all put on these freight trains and
shipped out.
And my father had his brother with him. His sister was with him too. So it was the four of them.
Okay.
And
just to back up for a second, did your father and mother come from large families in Poland?
Okay, my mother was one of 6.
Okay.
And my father was one of 4.
All right.
And my father's mother had already died in 33.
Okay.
So he, being the oldest, felt he had to take care of his siblings.
Yes.
So I think that was one reason he married later. Anyway, so now they're in Uzbekistan, Samarkand. It's 1943, and they now have to find a way of supporting themselves, which is something they didn't do before, but thank God they were freed. They could eat, do freedom. So my father decides, because he's a tailor, he's a Schneider in Yiddish, he can sew on machines, basically. He decides to make slippers called in Russian tapichkis, and he sends my mother out to sell them. And she gets picked up by the police because she has no documentation to be able to do that. So she spends a year in prison.
Oh my gosh.
So that's 44. She's released, and comes October of 45, bingo, I'm here. I'm born. And they stay there for 9 more months. And then even though Israel wasn't born, the Israeli Jews came and they wanted to bring us back to Poland. They really wanted us to go to Palestine. So in 46, when I'm 9 months old, they escape illegally on these freight trains again. My mother always talked about having to keep me quiet on the train. And then we wind up back in Lodz, Poland, where the United States was there, and other I think the British might have been there, and they were trying to help these Jews go back, resettle, find family members, of course, what had happened, so forth.
I'm assuming both your mom and dad lost most of their family.
My mother was very fortunate. She only lost her 2 sisters.
Okay.
But her 3 brothers survived because they left Europe.
Oh, okay.
So one went to Belgium in the early 30s, and the other 2 went to Cuba around 38 or 39.
So they were out before the war started.
Correct. Okay. And therefore, that's where I have like over 40 cousins, because many generations, correct. And I'm the oldest of all the Moskowitz family, it's called. Okay.
And your father lost.
He lost his brother, who stayed back with his father. His sister died in Samarkand when my mother was imprisoned. She had eaten something that wasn't clean and developed dysentery and died. So I have a picture of her gravesite with my father and his brother. Okay. But when they went to Poland, my father's brother chose to go to Palestine, where my parents chose to stay in Europe. They did not want to go to Palestine. My father told me he felt he was too old at this point to become a farmer. Right.
So when did they decided to come to the United States?
No.
Okay.
So then they were told, well, they never really owned anything in Poland. So they found out who had died. And there was no apartment to go to. So the Americans told them to go to a DP camp in Germany. And I believe they must have transported them there.
Okay.
So that's where we went in 46, the end of 46. And we stayed in this DP camp till 47. Then the camp closed. It was a very small camp. So we had to figure out, well, not we, I'm not really involved in figuring out, right?
Yeah.
So they went first, we went to someone's apartment and I remember sleeping on the floor. Oh. It's interesting what a two-year-old remembers,
right.
You know?
Sure.
And then I think we visited my uncle in Belgium, and then my parents realized, or maybe they were told, go back to Paris because you had some residency there before. And they allowed them to go back to Paris. So we lived there and I have documents on this. I have the apartment number, the house, from 47 to 51.
Okay.
In 51, Korea was about to explode, the Korean War. And my mother said she could not be in Europe for another war. She had been a child for World War I. And so I guess she wrote to my uncle in Cuba, her older brother, not the younger one, the older brother to, and at that time, he was in the United States already. Right. He came over, it could have been in 46. So he sponsored us, and we came in 51.
Okay. And you were how old at that point?
5.5.
5.5. So now you had to learn another language.
Oh, yeah. And I had already, we were speaking Yiddish in the house, which I'm fluent. And I heard Russian, Polish, German, French.
Right.
I went to school in France. I have a picture of myself and I have that school bag and a purse. And I think I went there from the age of 4 to 5.5 when I left. Yeah.
Right. And you can still speak Yiddish?
Yeah.
And English. Of course.
Yes.
Anything else? Any Russian?
No, but I love hearing foreign languages. I love watching movies where they're talking Polish, or because my parents would talk Polish if they didn't want me to
understand.
And I'm the only child, so I always was just around them.
Okay. All right. So when they came to the United States, what did they do?
My father went to work in a factory. Okay. My mother stayed home with me.
Okay. And you went to school?
We lived in a furnished apartment right around the corner from my uncle in Coney Island.
Okay. So when did you first really realize that your parents were different than maybe some of your friends' parents?
Very early on, because in school, my legal name was Basha. So the kids would tease me I entered school in first grade. Maybe they didn't tease me then, but the principal called my mother in and said, we have to change her name. We have to make her an American name. So that's when my mother picked Barbara. Kids would tease me in the streets. Oh, there goes Bashi. I just kind of knew that, and we never had any friends other than Holocaust survivor that my parents, befriended, and then maybe they had a child and I would hang out with the child. But sort of knew we were different. Look, we're living in an apartment over a store, and there's nothing of ours in the apartment. It's all furniture that is the owner's. 2 bedrooms and a kitchen. It couldn't be any more sparse. It's just depressing.
Right. So when did you first learn about this concept of the Holocaust? Like, when did you realize that your parents were part of this big, traumatic, horrific event in history?
I think always, because my mother talked about it. Now, my father going to work, to the factory, and my mother sitting home, and that's all she talked about. If I didn't want to eat something, she would remind me in Siberia, she was eating berries off of the trees, and how can you not appreciate food? Right. If I asked for something like clothing, I mean, money was very, very tight, especially the first, I'd say, 5 years. You know, and we were, besides being different with the Holocaust having the past, we were religious, Orthodox, and, you know, speaking Yiddish. So we kind of stood out,
right?
You know, and everybody was kind to us. In the building, there were 3 other families kind to us. A neighbor had no TV. So a neighbor allowed me to come and watch TV like one night a week. I mean, the people were kind.
Right.
But
right.
I always knew, and I didn't have friends at that point that were non-Holocaust related friends.
Okay.
But when I became, let's say, when we left that apartment, and I remember in the 8th grade, we were out of that apartment. We moved a block away over another store, but my parents bought furniture, and I had my own bedroom. And at that point, I kind of saw how I was different from all my friends. Because, you know, I guess you open up more when you're in middle school. There's much more interaction with other kids. You go into their
apartments, their house, right? Sleepovers or...
Okay. I never had a sleepover until I was 14. And I slept over my uncle's house. And I could not sleep all night because, I don't know, I'd never done this. Where was my mother? I was very, very attached. Very attached.
Yeah. It's a common theme. You know, we hear that a lot. So when did you become interested in Holocaust history? When you went to, I mean, did you go to college? Did you, you know, like when did all of that, when did you decide that you wanted to learn about this kind of independently?
Well, 2 things happened. Well, one thing was, I remember in high school, we had to take English, speech English, where we had to make presentations. And I remember I hated to do this, really was frightened. And I remember my speech was about being unique and being a Holocaust, a child survivor. And the teacher, she was just dead emotionally. She just, you know, she gave you no credit. She gave you a check if you, you know, did the speech. And I remember then feeling really, really angry and like, why did I open myself up?
Right.
So I basically did not do that much. Most of my friends, I had one friend in high school that was also like me. But yes, I went to college, became a teacher, got married, got a divorce, I had a child with that first marriage. And then I met my present husband, Frank, who is Irish Catholic. And he was always reading about his culture, the Irish background. And he kept encouraging me to read and not move away from it, but embrace it.
But embrace it.
And then that book came out, Children of the Holocaust, by Helen Epstein, and that opened me up more.
Right.
So now he even drove me once to a meeting, because I think it was Benjamin Mead, who started the 2Gs in Manhattan. So he once drove me to that meeting.
Okay.
And then there were 2G meetings that just organized in Brooklyn, and I used to go to those meetings. So that was kind of where it happened.
Right. And you began to...
Where my cousins, I have a lot of cousins, the older cousins, whose parents didn't have that trauma because their father or grandfather was in Cuba.
Right.
Or back in Belgium. And so they didn't experience that. And that problem, the fact that her brothers, my mother's brothers, did not experience that, they didn't even understand her.
Right.
And that was a big division within the family.
Yeah, I'm sure. And, when I think, again, we see that a lot, that Holocaust survivors tended to stick with other Holocaust survivors because they didn't have to explain themselves.
Exactly.
There was an unspoken, we get it, we get you, there's a connection.
Right.
It wasn't necessary.
Right.
And, so I think that is something to be said for that. So when did you decide that you wanted to kind of document your parents' story a little bit or start writing about it? And how did that eventually lead to you coming to HMTC?
Okay. So what happened, I was teaching in Abraham Lincoln High School in Brooklyn, which is the school I graduated from. So it was a wonderful 20 years there. And the Key Club in the school decided to start a project, which I really was not aware of. And they went into Coney Island and into Brighton Beach, where there were a lot of Holocaust survivors still living. And they wanted to interview them.
What year was this?
This started around 1997.
Okay. Just to give a time frame.
It completed in like 2000. And so the Key Club kids, whoever wanted to do this, they weren't all Jewish. They just went and they either invited the survivor to come to school to be interviewed, or they went to the home. So they did 7 of those. And after they did about 5, somebody asked me if I wanted to be involved in this. And I said, oh, sure, why not? It's after school. So I went with them to 2 of the interviews. So I experienced that. Then they said, oh, well, maybe we'll expand it to the children of survivors. And there were 3 women in the building, me and 2 others who agreed to be interviewed. There were some that didn't want to.
Right, of course.
They just could not deal with it anymore. So I was interviewed. And in those days, we're talking about, almost 30 years ago, they did it audio. There was no visual. So then one of the young men volunteered to go home and transcribe it. And then, so therefore, they all had to transcribe all these testimonies. And then a few of the women involved were English teachers. So they did the editing. But then they asked me if I would help them. Now, I am not a writer. I am not an editor. But I'm better at organizing than they were. And they needed somebody to push them to complete it. So we met with a publisher. Knopf at that point publishes the book, but doesn't want their name on the book, which is interesting.
Yeah.
Because, again, they don't know if all the facts are correct.
Right.
And so they don't want to be in that legal matter. And we understood that. And then the book came out, and then...
Yep, there it is.
There it is. It's in our library. It's in our bookstore. And the publisher gave us, really a large amount. So each person who had the testimony was given a case. So I gave it out to my family, and I mailed it to Yeshiva University. I mailed it to a lot of universities. And then I retire, 2001, in January. And I see this ad in the local paper. I was living in Seacliff. And there was a local paper at that point, that Seacliff Gazette, I think it was called. And they're mentioning that the Holocaust Center in Glen Cove, which I didn't even know existed, is looking for volunteers and second gen. Perfect. So I come here, and the woman at that point, it was Regina who was in charge.
Regina White.
But Regina's assistant was Linda. I don't remember her last name. But I said to Linda, look, I am married to somebody who's not Jewish. How will I fit in here? So she said, there's no problem. I'm married to somebody who's not Jewish either. Don't worry about it. So I said to her, I don't know if I'm ready to do anything but, somehow help. So she asked me if I would like to do the library, and that's where I started.
Right.
Then years later, Beth Lilac and Helen Turner encouraged me to start gathering my papers to try to become a speaker.
Right. But you have done a wonderful job.
Thank you.
And I have heard you're
you.
telling the story, and it's really fabulous. So now, you speak to kids, and that has opened up a whole nother area, and very effective. I mean, I say this all the time to everyone, that any kid that comes through our doors is impacted and changed. How can you not be? Through our museum, but also through the testimony and the second generation. It's very effective. It's extremely powerful. I wish we could reach every kid in every school,
I agree.
everywhere. But we can only do what we can do.
Exactly.
And we do what we do well,
Right.
and we do make an impact. So, because of people like you, you help me make my job easier as director of education, so that we do that. So it's a wonderful team that we have here.
I agree.
We really are very blessed. We have great people who are very committed, and we all work, I think, really well together.
And the center has grown. My God, I have seen a total renovation.
Yes.
It's wonderful.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
Yeah. So now we do. If anything, we're a little over committed with so many things, but it is the nature of the world today as well. With what's happening and the rise in anti-Semitism and dealing with all of the issues that we're dealing with, we can't be silent. And it makes our work even that much more important to reach students.
Sure.
For those 2Gs maybe out there who haven't done what you have done or haven't gathered all of the information, what would you say to them?
Well, I've met a few of them. And there's a new lady on my floor that I didn't realize. She was a 2G. I always encourage them to start reading more about other people's experiences. Maybe they will, encourage them to speak out. And then I also tell them about what I've done. And hopefully, they'll maybe want to come and join us and do something.
Yes.
But, awareness is the big thing.
Yeah, sometimes just inviting people to come in and see a tour here.
Yes.
Come and when a school is here, see how the docents, explain to the kids the museum. Come in and watch a second generation give testimony or a survivor give testimony, and then see if that's something that you would be interested in. And then we, of course, do help to that journey. We don't just throw anybody into a room and say, speak, that would never happen. So it's a whole process. And, sometimes it might take a while, and that's okay, But I agree.
Used to do, which I really enjoyed, which I'm not doing anymore, are those, we used to have, they were like a Zoom. Before we called it Zoom.
Right.
The visual conferences or something like that.
Video conferencing. Video conferencing.
So yes. I did one in Canada. It was great. And the kids were so into it.
Right.
And then I got these letters from them. Then they asked for the book. It was just amazing.
Yeah.
And then we used to do a lot of them. And certain people didn't really enjoy doing it. I kind of enjoyed it. I don't know why I really enjoy that more than sometimes in person, because maybe, I don't know. Yeah, I mean, I like the in-person.
Right.
So I want to just share something interesting. We had a cousins gathering. It wasn't a huge gathering because I was there towards the end of the gathering. This was on the Cape in June. So there were about 15 of us. And the woman who owned the house, she was the grandmother of all of these children. So she, I had shared with her the PowerPoint. She downloaded it, and she shows it to them one evening when we're there, and then she wants me to tell them the story. So now I'm telling them the PowerPoint that I had, which I had brought my book with me, of course, and one of the children, who was about 14, she was named after the aunt who died, my mother's sister. And so she was asking me more about Razel, whose picture is in our gallery. So, I mean, it's a total closure in a way, you know? So then I emailed her, because she lives in Atlanta, Georgia. I was telling her a little bit about her aunt that I knew.
Right.
And then I emailed her some information. I got a book, and I emailed it. Our books, all these books are on Amazon sometimes. Right. You can get them. Someone was selling it.
Right.
So I was able to get something for her. It's just... broaden the whole thing. It's just wonderful.
That's wonderful that you were able to do that, and give her that.
And that they were interested. I think the point is they were.
I think that the interest is there. I really do. Sometimes we have to just bring it to the forefront. But I don't think that I maybe I'm just being idealistic, but I don't feel that people in that situation wouldn't be interested.
Sure.
But I mean, I'm sure there is. But
Yeah,
I
well,
think,
if it's too much for them.
Right,
If
exactly.
If it's an overload, so
Yes.
then they walk away.
Exactly. They can't. Yeah. So, well, thank you so much,
Oh,
Barbara,
thank
for
you.
sharing and talking with us. And I'm so happy to have gotten to know you in my time
Thank you.
here. And we will continue to work together. And
Absolutely.
and it's a wonderful thing. So, thank you so much for
Thank
everything
you.
you do
Thank
here at
you.
HMTC. And for all of us who are on the podcast, please like, subscribe, share, and join us next time for Legacy Chronicles. Thank you so much.